Hello, this video is going to be part 1 in an LMX overview series. In this video we're going to look at the Welcome tab and the 026 Management tab. Now when you first open LMX, you're going to be presented with this screen. However, if you're opening it on a DoD computer, you're likely going to see the ribbon at the top, and then below that you'll see a small area that has one button that says Options. Now when you try to click the click here to log in button, nothing will happen. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to enable the Visual Basic code to run. To do that, you're going to click the Options button, and then you're going to be presented with an option that says Enable Content. You're going to select Enable Content and click OK. LMX is going to reload, and it should look exactly how you see it here on the screen. So once you get here, click the click here to log in button, enter the username and password. If you just downloaded LMX from the website, then the username and password are both admin. You can change that once you get logged in. Okay, so now here we are on the Welcome tab. At the top you see the current Julian date, you see the user that's currently logged in, and you see the data currency date, in this case 1 December. Down below you see each of the daily and weekly imports. This is data that's imported into LMX. Alright, obviously red is going to indicate that the data is not current, and green is going to indicate that it is current. Down below that you're going to get the LMX user count plus the number of users that are currently logged into the system. And then lastly, you'll have the version information. So you see the current version number and the date of that version, and then you'll see a summary of the notes for what was fixed, added, changed, whatnot in that particular version. Now moving on to the 026 Management tab, you're presented with several options. Alright, the first selection you're going to have to make is the minimum job age in the brigade. So for example, if you wanted to view everything over 30 days on the 026, simply change the 0 to 30. In this case I'm going to leave it at 0. And then from the brigade drop down box, you're going to choose the brigade you want to manage. In this case we're only managing one brigade, so that's the option we have. So the first area that we'll look at is the Add Edit 026 Notes. So I'm going to click the Add Edit Notes button. On this window we're presented with the structure for the basic LMX workflow that you'll find throughout various parts of LMX. Alright, at the top we have, for example, the fleet that this particular NIN belongs to, the number of parts that are ordered against the job, the owning battalion, the owning brigade, and the supporting forward support company. This form can be filtered by choosing either battalion, equipment category, or fleet. Additionally, you can jump to a specific RON or DON or organizational work order number. So in the next section down here we have two rows that basically pertain to job admin data. For example, day's deadline, the current stat that it is in org, in this case it's in org stat C, how many days it's been in that status, and the organizational work order number. Now if the job was evac to support, you would see the support status and the support work order number as well. Now one of the capabilities that LMX offers is if you don't know what a specific status is, then you can click on that status and it'll tell you what the definition is. Likewise, if you want to know what calendar date a specific Julian date is for, click on it on that particular field and it's going to tell you what the calendar date is. Now moving into the parts section, LMX is going to give you several bits of key information. It's going to give you the RON or the unit document number. It's going to tell you the RON status, which is what SAMS thinks the status is. It's also going to tell you what SARS thinks the status of that particular RON is. This is important because SAMS and SARS don't always communicate properly. So when you have something that's rather outdated, for example, this job was in BD status, which means the job was in the MRF, and that was as of 10 November. However, SARS has an updated status as of 18 November that says the job is in BA status, which means it's being processed for release and shipment. Now, if this RON had rolled over into a DON at the SSA, that DON would be listed here. Now, if you've ever had to do this manually, this is a huge time saver. Now, likewise, it's going to give you the status of the DON, and if the DON has shipped, it's going to give you the last location that it pinged at in this area right here. That's using the RFITV in-transit visibility information. Now, another key bit of information you get out of here is the source of supply MACOM. If you have a part on order with a long estimated ship date that would be listed here, then you might want to contact the item manager in order to get the part expedited. To do that, you need to know who to contact. It's either going to be AMC or DLA. This is going to tell you who you need to contact right here. Okay, now we've determined that this is an AMC item. So if we want to request from the item manager that the part be expedited, all we have to do is simply come over here to the log request to item manager, click it, choose the appropriate item manager from the drop down menu, and click the send logistics request to item manager. What we end up with is a pre-formatted email addressed to the person we selected. It'll have the RON the DON if there is one, and the NSN in the subject. It'll have some pleasantries signed by whoever you are logged in as, and then a summary of the part information down below. So all you have to do at this point is click send. Now likewise, we have this assets available. Now in this case it's 0. So I'm going to simply go through now. I came to a record where we have these seals on order. In this case there's 71 of them available somewhere on our post. So I'm going to click view available assets, and the result is going to tell me which RICs have the particular items. It'll give me the condition code, quantity on hand, and quantity due out. And of course, if I click over here to the RIC info, it'll give me some information about that RIC so I can contact them and do a walkthrough. We have the add as readiness issue and add to SSA call list. So if I want to follow this particular part and maybe request assistance from higher, then I can click add as a readiness issue. It's going to let me know that it's going to be added to a consolidated list. I'll click yes, and now it informs me that it was successfully added. Same thing goes if I want to add to the SSA call list. So if I had to call the SSA about a particular item, instead of calling them for each individual document as I go through it, I can simply click add to SSA call list, and it'll do the same thing as before. It's going to add it to a list that I can go back and pull up later when I'm actually on the phone with the SSA, and I can call them and talk to them about a list of specific parts. If I determine that this file is a ghost file, then I can come here and I can click this checkbox, and it's going to go ahead and mark it as a ghost file. And then at any point I can view the ghost file report, and it'll tell me what ghost files I have on my current 026 as per user input. The next section down here is going to allow me to click one of these buttons and copy this bit information to the computer's clipboard, which I can then paste in somewhere else. Okay, along the same lines, I'm presented over here with RON info and DON info. Alright, in this case I had this box turn green, and it's got some information about my RON. And it's basically saying that as of 22 November the item is being processed for release and shipment. So if I want that to become my remark that's going to show up on the 026 print, I click the RON info button, and bam, that remark was copied over here with the appropriate date timestamp and who it was updated by. Now this section down here is going to keep all the user historical remarks, whether it's me or somebody else inputting information about this job. That way everyone involved can collaborate to come up with the right answer and get the equipment up as soon as possible. Down over here on the right, we have the DOL work order information. So if a job has been evac to DOL, then that information will populate here. The work order number, the status date, and if available, the percentage complete. At the bottom, we have a few buttons that are going to be useful on occasion. We have the previous next button that's going to go from one record to another. Keep in mind where it says 11 of 182. That's not 182 jobs deadline. What that is each record is either a job or a part on order for a job. So for example, one job with 5 parts on order would be 5 records down here. Use previous and next to navigate through. The clear filter button is going to clear any filters that have been applied. If you want to view only pacing items, click the pacers only button. What that's going to do is notice we're down to 3 items. So these are all items that are IRC-P. Now that I'm done with that, I can click the clear filter button and it'll go back to 182. The evac jobs with no support status. Alright, this report is going to be anything that is an org-M, which means evac, but does not have a support work order number attached to it. Alright, this report can be used to ensure that all your SAMS boxes within your unit are communicating properly. We have a references menu that is going to allow you to do some quick lookups for different things. We have links to various logistical management websites, and then we have some lookup tools. So for example, if I want to know what a certain RIC is, then I can simply search for it. If I want to know what a certain part status means, then I can search here. Same thing with a work order status. Document identifier codes. LMX has a web browser built in that's going to allow you to choose a particular logistics management website from within LMX, so you can do your research without actually having to leave LMX. Alright, and the last thing I'll demonstrate over here is a feature that allows you to do integrated parts research. So if you weren't happy with the information here, or you wanted to obtain some greater visibility, instead of copying this RON, going over, logging into LIW, going to parts tracker, pasting in the document number, and so forth, all you have to do is simply come over here to the parts tracker lookup and click either RON or DON to research. In this case, we're going to click RON. What it'll do is it'll immediately load the parts tracker results page. So as you can see, we got all the information we needed from parts tracker simply by clicking one button. Now likewise, here we see that we have 0 assets available within our RIC geo. However, we may want to do a worldwide asset search. So if I come over here and I click on the NSN field, then I'm going to use the LIW asset locator to get worldwide visibility of that particular NIN. Once you've done your research notes, you may want to come over and you may want to view an 026 print. Alright, in that case, you're going to come over here to the Choose 026 Report View, and you can choose brigade views. You can view it sorted by fleet, by major subordinate command, or entire area of responsibility. So pretty much all the UICs and job data that's imported into LMX would be visible through this bottom button. Alright, if we click the By Brigade button, we get a few options. We can sort the particular brigade we have selected right here. We can sort it by fleet, by battalion. We can view only pacing items, and then we have this brigade PowerPoint view. The brigade or the PowerPoint views in LMX are meant to be exported into Word, so you can copy and paste into PowerPoint for a meeting or something to that effect. Now down here we can choose a specific battalion if we want to view just a battalion 026. And then we can also view all units supported by a particular entity. So in this case I'm going to choose by battalion. And here we're presented with the 026 data for 3rd Brigade Combat Team. Alright, this is going to be grouped by battalion. So for example, this area in the black bar represents the battalion. Below that, in that slightly shaded area, we have the job admin data. And then on the indented area, we have the parts information and all the research notes for particular parts. Moving down, we move to the next job. Notice that the day's deadline is color-coded. And we have the parts information and notes for the job, for the parts ordered against that job. Now I'm going to click next down here, and notice we move through the entire 026 that way. Now we're at a new battalion. Any report in LMX can be exported by clicking this PDF or XPS button. So if I click this, I'll be presented with an option to choose the location to save it at. I can choose the quality, and then I can simply click publish, and I'll get a PDF version of this report, which can be emailed out. Alright, if I move on to the fleet NMC status, alright, I get the same basic report which I can view for different levels. So for example, in this case I'm going to choose for the selected brigade. In this case it's 3rd Brigade. Now I'm just going to get a quick summary of information. I'm going to get the fleet, the operational readiness rate for that fleet, and then some basic INOP data for what is down right now. Under the ad hoc fleet report, I can do a custom list of fleets. So I choose a brigade, and then I select the fleets that I want to track. And then same thing here. I can go to add edit comments, put in my notes, and so forth. This is going to give me an 026 print for the fleets that I selected. Complete with notes. Alright, in the bottom section here we have the additional options. So here we can view exchange pricing information. In this case, since we got one brigade, we get a summary of the brigade and the supporting RIC. I'll choose the brigade here. I'll click on the management report. And this is going to be a summary of all the exchange pricing items for this particular brigade. It's going to give me the brigade total. It's going to break each battalion down. And then it's going to give me, again, a total down at the bottom. Now this exchange pricing report has a few different sections. We have actual Delta bills incurred the previous fiscal year, which is the orange section. And then we also see how many requisitions were non-recurring demands the previous fiscal year. We see the same information for the current fiscal year. How many Delta bills were actually incurred so far. Over here to the right, we have a summary for each battalion, and then we have that battalion broken down into less than 30 days, 31 to 44 days, and over 45 days. Now the so what of that report you get in the open issues report. So when we click on that, we get a breakdown by battalion, and then further by DODAC within that battalion, who owes what. Okay, the EP arbitration log, if you're in the, say, the Sustainment Brigade supply section, and you're managing EP arbitrations, then what you can do is you can come here and you can log a particular NIN, and then you can mark whether or not credit was granted for that particular NIN. This will save time in the future when future arbitrations come in. In the next section, we have readiness issues and SSA call list. So in the add edit notes, you have the option to add a particular part as a readiness issue or to your SSA call list. And this will allow you to review that later on in a separate report if you want to review just specific items. In this case, there are none added, so we'll move on to the Class 9 asset lookup. Now, since we pull in the entire ASL for every SSA within a particular RIC geo, in this case Fort Bragg, then I can click the Class 9 asset lookup and I can look for a specific NIN, search, and it's going to tell me what RIC has what. Quantity on hand, quantity due out, and the condition code. And if I want to, I can click over here to view RIC specific information. There's also a Class 7 asset lookup, which is based on PBUS data. This concludes the video for the 026 Management and Welcome tab within the Logistics Management Exchange.